Hello and welcome to the Chesteen. I'm here with my mom.
Hello and welcome. Glad you could join us.
So this has been a labor of love, wouldn't you say? This was my great-grandfather's house. They purchased this farm and this house back in 1936. So it's quite an old house. When I was growing up, my great-grandmother still lived here.
Yes.
Along with another family member. I remember playing under this porch. There was wisteria growing all over it, rocking in the rocking chairs, got dropped off by the school bus in the afternoon. My parents, they live right down the dirt road over there on the farm. Basically, this house fell into
major disrepair.
Major disrepair. Some of the wood was taken off to build other things. You guys really thought it was just kind of hopeless, didn't really know what to do with it. And then my dad and mom decided.
We bought the farm from other family members about 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was so damaged over the years that we thought there was no hope.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, we started a U-pick, a blueberry U-pick here. And everyone who came asked, what are you going to do with the old house? And it just started us thinking, especially my daughter, what could we do? We thought it was way more than we could afford.
And way past hope. It was.
We really thought it was past hope.
I'll include some photos of what it looked like before. The back wall was gone. The roof was, the floor was gone. It had been given up on.
Yeah, for many, many years, unfortunately. But my husband and I, did not want it to fall down.
No.
We did not want to push it over. We wanted to maintain as much as we could, so we just started with a salvation project, just save it from falling in. And then as we did that step, it was like, well, now that it's sturdy, let's put some walls back. And now we can do a floor. And it just began to snowball from that point. And I'm so glad we're standing here today in something that's over 100 years old, that'll last another 100 years old for our kids and grandkids and people who enjoy this type of, they call this an old cracker house is the style. Mm-hmm. And many people in Georgia and Florida had homes like this, but you won't see many still in existence anymore. And I'm so thankful that our kids helped, some of our grandkids helped to make this project come to life. And so it's something now that we can share with future generations to come.
Exactly. And they actually Airbnb it now, which is another great thing. So not only did we all contribute to sort of bringing it back, now it's on Airbnb. Shameless plug here. If anyone would like to come and spend a weekend, a couple of nights on a working blueberry farm, you're more than welcome. But back to the cracker style, that's really interesting. It's called a cracker house because farmers or ranchers in North Florida and South Georgia back in those days, they would crack a whip. Mm-hmm. And so it was the sound of that cracking, that got this style of house really hand-built everything. You can see it in all the notches. Then it has this pathway going through to the back door. That would open, and then it would let all the air into the house. So.
Yeah, very, very well. Air circulates very well. And when it was originally built, when I married into the family 50 years ago, there was a kitchen that was on the end. You walk down the hallway into the kitchen. The kitchen was actually separate from the rest of the house to protect in the case that there was a fire in the kitchen. Yeah. They could easily push it over and save the family structure where everybody lived. So when I came into the family 50 years ago, there was really no need for that kitchen. So they actually tore it down 50 years ago and moved the kitchen inside to make it easier for the existing family at that time.
And that's where we can start our tour. So we'll get you out of the cold. It's actually cold here.
It's cold in South Georgia today.
Usually it's not. Lars is working the camera, but he doesn't have on a mic, so he's silent. So we can.
Ooh, that's amazing. Lars, silent?
And just smiling.
We love you, Lars.
Yeah, but it's quite chilly today. So let's come on inside. We'll start in the kitchen. And this is where I remember as a kid, after school, doing my homework, hanging out with my great-grandmother and Aunt Jimmy.
because they were excellent cooks, and they always had cookies and milk for the kids after school.
And chocolate pie. She used to make the best chocolate and jelly cake.
Chocolate.
It was a layered. You did not sign up for this, people, but it was a layered cake with jelly in between each layer.
Homemade jelly that they made themselves. Yeah.
And then I'd come out and make mud pies under the porch. But come on in, and we'll start the tour. So welcome to the kitchen. This was, like I said, this was really my favorite room growing up, or the room where I spent the most time as a kid. Being not a kid anymore, it feels a little smaller, but I guess that's just how things are. First, I want to show you guys the ceiling. This is actually old tin that was taken off of the tobacco barn that was also on the property. So another side over there, that got torn down many years ago. But the tin in here, we use that for the roof. Of course, the lights are new, so the electrical, all that's been refurbished. Maybe, Mom, you could tell us about this 1930s refrigerator. Where'd you guys, this thing works, by the way.
It does. We happened upon this. We wanted an old refrigerator for the house, and it actually works. We were amazed. You know, they made things so much better back then. Now we live in a throwaway society, but this refrigerator actually works. The problem is that it's not frost-free, so it works too well. So if you actually use it, the freezer part freezes up and you have to defrost it about every 2 to 3 days. So for the Airbnb, we just use it now for looks. It's like eye candy in here because we just think it's so amazing.
Yeah. For some of our long-term guests, we don't use that.
Yeah.
A nice big sink here's going on. Look outside
this was
this way.
Really popular style back in the 50s. Before they came out with all the wood cabinets, metal was the thing. And you could buy, back in those days, you could buy the top cabinets, the bottom cabinets, everything made out of this metal. And I've always loved it. My mother-in-law had one, so when we started this house, I said, I really want one like she had. So we looked till we found one that was in really, really good shape. And that's where this came from. This was back in like the 50s.
And by the way, all the wood that you'll see on the floor, around us, even the stuff that we've refinished these windows with, this is all original wood. It was either taken from barns on the property or from the property itself. There's only a few places where the floor had to be completely, like in the back bedroom. We'll show you that later. But everything you're seeing is really original. Furniture, of course, we tried, like my mom said, they tried to get as close to what could have been in here as we could. But Lars, look out this window real quick. The light probably has to adjust, but look at that. That's just one of the blueberry fields around here, and the back porch over there, where we spent a lot of time. Maladzi jumps off now every time we come home to visit. But look at that. Coming on around here, these windows were always so pretty. They don't open anymore, but these were always pretty. Look at this. A lot of little antique pieces that they've got around here. So this is a washboard, but it's made out of wood. Can you see that? So instead of it being a metal washboard, it's made out of wood. How crazy.
And there was a reason for that. This was,
tells
you that this washboard was redesigned to eliminate the use of critical metal needed for the war effort and victory. So this is really a very old piece and one that really has a important meaning.
So they needed that metal for the war.
Yes.
And so they used wood there. This is not authentic to the house, but people do like to cook. A little easier than using the fireplace. This was a butter churn. What was this?
Lard press. Lard press. When they cook the hogs, they'd take the fat and render the lard. If you've ever had a biscuit made with lard, that's the best biscuit you'll ever put in your mouth. Now they tell us lard is not good for us. So our biscuits aren't nearly as good. But this was a lard press.
And we're talking about southern biscuits, not like a cookie.
No,
like a
southern biscuits. Yeah.
It's kind of like a scone, but salty, flaky. So not like a scone. I don't know. Delicious. Come
and try our biscuits.
My mom will make biscuits one day. This was the original one, right?
This is original to the house, yes.
This is beautiful. So this was refinished. So this sort of frames all of this.
And none of the fireplaces work because we're
Anymore, yeah.
too concerned about the chimneys now. That it could be dangerous, so we don't use the fireplaces, but we've left them because we love the old brick exposed.
And when we started renovating, this was covered with like a plaster, and then it was painted. My sister was in here chipping and chipping and chipping and chipping away to get back to that original brick, but it's really pretty. This, where'd you guys get this? This is really pretty.
Well, this is a stove they would have used. They did use something very similar to this when they moved here. In fact, they had one. I hate to admit that when they went to an electric stove or a gas stove, they put this out in the woods. Who knew it was going to be valuable one day? And someone stole it. But we wanted to bring this back to the house. So we found this up in North Georgia, an older gentleman that had been in his family for years. And he sold it to us. We still have the original paperwork with the stove.
That's crazy.
And it would still work. These were actually, you piped them. There's a pipe back here, but you actually would pipe it outside, and we didn't want to knock a hole in the home, so we left it. But it's all. These were warming trays. Once you cooked your food, you sat up here, and it kept it warm. Just another piece of eye candy to remind us of what it used to be like in those days. Wood stove, cooked with wood.
Can you imagine making the big Christmas dinner you just made on that?
I know. Oh, and this is neat. Now, my husband, if he were here, he could tell you about this as a child. This is how they churned butter. And he said as a little boy, this was his job. They'd put the cream in there, and he would have to sit there and churn and churn and churn until it made butter. But yes, this is a butter churn. Now you go to the store and buy your butter.
Yeah. But that's pretty. This old bench, my dad remembers this bench was sort of always here in the house.
Always here. It's painted a really
green,
bad shade of green.
Yeah.
And we worked really hard to get as much as we could off. But the bench is home, back where it's supposed to be.
Tin under the windows also. We brought that tin from the ceiling back down to fill that out. This we actually brought from Denmark. So there's a bit of, and Lars and I gave this last year or a couple of years for Christmas because it's also 100 years old. So we tried to get something that had a Dane come to visit this farm 100 years ago. This is what they would have brought.
Here we are in the hallway of the Chesteen, one of my favorite places because there's so much history here. This bench right here, our daughter made out of an old door from this farm. This is a quilt that my grandmother made that we put over it, but this is an old door. Neat. This my daughter made. She took photos of the family who lived here. This is my husband's grandfather and his grandmother.
So this is the great-grandfather, that I was talking about.
Yeah, the great-grandfather, yeah. And this is, my husband is a little bitty boy.
Wasn't it cute? That's my dad. And here he is too. Look at this one.
Yeah.
So that's my dad with my grandmother, so his mother, and then my paternal grandfather.
And this was an old window from the place that Jennifer used as a frame. Just a very neat concept. And then the original door here was glass. And we decided it probably would not be safe to have a whole glass door there. But I didn't really want to destroy it. So I have an amazing, talented friend who painted these pictures on this glass door. This is an outside picture of the old house. This is the field, blueberry field behind us, and some blueberries. She did a marvelous job. Yeah. And we thought, well, what will we do with it? My daughter, once again, found an old table around here, cut it off, and actually made a table so we can use it. I have some very talented children.
Jennifer Wilds Johnson, my sister now.
And this Ellen Wilds and Lars, let me tell you.
But Lars and I had a lot of fun. We came home one Christmas and we knew that maybe we step into this room, we get a little better light. So we came home that Christmas and we knew we needed to do a little bit of what we thought, honestly, Lars and I thought it was just a little painting, a little, maybe lay some tiles in the bathroom.
Oh.
Mind blown. So this was the first room. You and I actually started on this.
You and I did this one, yes.
Lars and my dad started putting up a wall that we'll show you in a minute, but this is where my mom and I actually worked on that first Christmas. We took these old boards.
These were from the tobacco barn as well.
Look at that. That's over 100 years old. We built the, what do you call it? Chair rail? Yeah, the chair rail.
Mm-hmm.
We put the tent up around this. I mean, what you see here is not what was here because what was here had fallen apart.
It was
Tin on the ceiling.
And unfortunately, one of the last tenants that rented this place had painted. Unfortunately, they had painted this beautiful wood. And we worked very hard in the kitchen, hours upon hours.
Yeah.
And
My brother-in-law actually, yeah.
Yes, they spent so much time trying to get the paint off. They did a good job, but once we came into this room, we realized we didn't have the time nor the money to try to get all this paint off.
And it was really a matter of time because Dad is still full-time farming. Mm-hmm. My mom runs the blueberry barn, theblueberrybarn.com, for all your blueberry product needs. You know, my sister, she has her family, my brother. So we really only had Christmas vacations, summer vacations to bring this house back to life. So I'm quite proud of what we did.
Oh, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud. We love this.
And there's Wi-Fi.
We now have Wi-Fi.
And I've told Lars before, if you could think 100 years ago, my great-grandfather, to tell him there's Wi-Fi wouldn't have mattered, but to explain what Wi-Fi is, that you can watch Netflix, come on, mind blown.
Back then, if you had a TV, and they did not have a television, but we had antennas, and we had 3 channels, 3.
I grew up with that, and if on a rainy day, a windy day, you didn't see anything.
You didn't see anything.
Because the antenna had to turn to catch something.
Oh, things have changed so much, so much.
And I'm only 17.
Yeah,
so,
right. And I'm only 50. Yeah.
You could be. You look good.
Yeah. Let's look at this over here. This is a very, very interesting part of the house. People back in the day, back in his great-grandparents' day, the way they paid for this farm was chipping turpentine. Yeah. Turpentine is a rosin that comes out of pine trees, and that's what we have down here in South Georgia, tremendous acreage of pine trees. Well, this pine tree tar was an amazing product. They used it in so many things.
You can even waterproof a ship with it.
Oh,
a lot of naval industry. Yeah.
And so my husband was always fascinated by that. So in the process of the farm, once in a while you can find what they call a cat face on a tree. And if you look, it kind of looks like a cat. Yeah. And what they would do is they would come along and they would cut these gashes in the tree, put these little metal pieces so the tar would run down, and they had these tin buckets. They used all different types of buckets. This is the tin one. And then the workers would then come along with tar buckets like this and these spatulas, and they would scrape it out of the tin into the bucket. And they would keep moving up the tree. As this part quit, they would keep moving up the tree. So therefore, more cat faces, more cat faces. And when it got so tall the guy couldn't reach it, he used a pole like this. This is a huge pole that he would go up as far as he could, cutting those marks into the tree to help the tar run down. It was an amazing, amazing process, and everybody did it around here. I mean, it was just the way people made their living. It's a hard life. Woo, let me tell you.
You can still find some. My dad talks about there's one over in the field over there, but
This is rare to find
And
this,
the
yeah.
good thing about this method, because if pine trees are really sensitive, so if you cut it, it can easily get insects in, you can infect the tree and the tree will die. But this method was actually invented by a doctor up in University of Georgia. And this method kept the tree from dying.
Yes. Yes.
So it was a very humane way to get the resin from the pine trees.
Yes, it was great. And y'all look it up sometime, what this resin has been used in
Yeah.
and what it's used for. Medicine,
Yeah.
makeup, chewing gum, hair shampoo, all kinds of things over the years. Now they don't do that anymore here in this country. They, unfortunately, they ship it all in.
Yeah.
But
And that's a cat face.
that's called a cat face.
We have a few
Turpentine.
more in behind the house, but this one was really a nice one to keep framed. Another fireplace that we have chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped. My sister has. And this accent wall, this was actually the very first thing. We're talking about what's the first thing in this house that you and I did, Mom? It was this.
Uh-huh.
So we had all these random,
Pieces.
that you just couldn't really save. They weren't big enough to do anything with. So we put them all up here. So every piece you see is very, very, very old.
Very old, including the mantle. My daughter and I made this mantle. She made it. I just held the pieces so she could screw it together.
Yeah.
But there again, very talented.
Yeah.
Family just did it all.
And then we get into the part of the house that has a lot more new material in it, because the front of the house was a bit more salvageable, would you say?
Yes, those two, the kitchen and this room, the living room area we call it, they were salvageable. They were still intact. But what happened 14 years ago when my husband and I bought this house, again, we thought we couldn't do anything with it. My husband said, let's take some of the wood out of the house, use it for flooring. If you see this flooring, use it for flooring in our home. So that's what we did, not knowing 12 years later we would try to save this.
But
Had we known.
in your defense, you get to, and we get to enjoy that wood as well. So you did give it a life. But you'll
We
see
gave it new
here in
life.
this part of the house, you'll see more of a new shiplap. You'll see more of a, just sort of a, what's that called? MDF?
Plywood.
Yeah, plywood,
Yeah,
just a plywood floor back there
floor.
in the back. But there's another fireplace here, so that was a joined one. Oh, is this original from the front?
Yes, that's original
So
from the
this was
front.
actually hand cut all around the border or the eave, I don't know, all around the roof of the house. You'll see this design, and they had to hand cut a square and a circle, a square and a circle, just to show you, even though it was, they were farmers, that this wasn't the mayor's house, for example, they still put a lot of time and care into
Yes,
making
they
it
did.
making it look pretty.
Nice.
You know? Yeah.
Yes,
So that's something to be proud of, that you don't have to be the mayor or the banker 100 years ago
that's right.
to still be proud of what you do. Again, we brought back the tin ceiling, the shiplap barn doors for the bathroom. This is something new they didn't have 100 years ago.
No.
Ta-da! Fancy indoor plumbing. And with a tin shower. Let me show this real quick.
Yeah, the bathroom that they had when they lived here was so small. And we knew if we were going to do a Airbnb, we had to have a much nicer shower.
So a big shower with tin surround, which I've always wanted one. I've always wanted tin surround.
Now you have it here.
But you know, our house in Denmark, I was talking to Daddy the other day, it's also over 100 years old.
Yes.
But it just shows the situation in which that house was built compared to this one is really different. That's a city house,
Oh, yeah.
100 years old, compared to this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do the back bedroom, and then we got it.
Yes.
So now we're in the back bedroom with a lot of light.
A lot of light, yes.
But a really high ceiling. We actually, when we were saving this room, we decided, because these are original beams. These are the beams holding the house together. And then instead of, so the ceiling in the other part of the house has dropped below the beams. But for this one, we really wanted the height. So to do that, we left the beams and then raised the ceiling, which I think gives it a nice...
Yeah.
It is a big room, but it makes it
is
feel
a big-
so much bigger. And you'll see a dirt dauber nest that we couldn't get off and all sorts of stuff up there, yeah. So this is where Airbnb and guests can come and stay. And this floor, this plywood floor, because as my mom said, this floor was gone.
Yeah.
So my dad actually burned it with that Japanese burning technique. And the day we did that, the house is now insulated. So there was, we packed behind the shiplap with insulation. And we didn't have on the, what do you call
Molding?
it? Yeah. There's a name. What do you call it when it's on the floor? Anyway, yeah. We
Didn't have that. So
What's it called? Floor something? Floor rail? Anyway, we didn't have that. So my dad is burning. The fire goes under and catches the insulation on. And suddenly around the window, you remember that? Suddenly
I do
around the
remember
window, we're seeing
smoke.
it smoke like it's a Def Leppard video. And
yeah, we thought we were going to burn down the house we had just repaired.
Lars
but
runs
praise
out to get the water
Lord,
hose and spray down the back of the house. But yeah, exactly.
We were able to.
Thank
able
God
to save it.
nothing
Yes.
happened. So then we burned very carefully.
And
But,
this might be an interesting piece for your viewers. This is the grandfather and grandmother with all their little children when they were small.
Wow. That's crazy.
To think of the years that have passed.
And the stories this house could tell. My
Yes.
Goodness gracious. Even the stories that, not only the ones I had as a kid, but the ones Lars and I and Malatsi running out there every Christmas when we were home building,
Oh yeah.
bringing it back together. My
Lots
sister and her
of wonderful
husband
memories. Oh,
putting that wall back on.
Yeah.
And, wow.
if it wasn't for my daughter and her husband and Ellen and Lars, this wouldn't have happened. But it was a family. That's one of the best memories I have. It's all the family.
Oh.
I'm gonna cry.
We're going to get more views now. Real drama. She's so funny. But no, it's true, and we really enjoyed it. Why don't we go get some video outside, show them what it looks like outside, and then call this one a day.
Let's do.
So the back porch, this is where the family has spent a lot of time.
Yes, yes.
There was a sink here. Right?
Yes, we had a sink. Originally, there was a big sink here. This is where they washed all their vegetables, their eggs, after they got them from the chickens. They did all their outside cleaning was done here, hands washing. Now, I can remember a big ladle. I hope to get that back one day. But they had a big ladle and a bucket.
To drink
and you
the water.
dip,
I
yes, you
remember.
dip the water out of the bucket and drank out of that ladle. Everybody did that. All farm families had
Yeah.
those back then. And
Yeah.
one day, we still have the sink.
Okay.
We just need to build the frame again. So I'm hoping to get that part back on the house. Maybe this fall we can do that.
Hint, hint,
This-
Lars. Hint, hint.
Yes, you boys come back.
Sure. A hornet's nest.
Oh.
Had you ever seen one of these, Lars? No. This is a hornet's nest where this wasp-like insect, flying insect, lives inside of this paper.
Yes, he makes all of that.
Crazy.
He makes all of that.
And they hang them up. A lot of
For decoration,
a lot of
yeah, a lot of people do
people
around
down here
here.
do. I think it's
Yeah.
spooky. You see it and your heart goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Be a lot of stuff out here. We can come on down and sit in the rocking chairs. That's where we like to spend most of our time.
Our daughter's in-laws have donated several pieces to the old house. This was one of them that they had. This would have been something that a family would have used back in those days. Absolutely. So we're proud to have it. Some of the barn door too in there.
The bathroom one was, yeah,
they
from
gave
theirs.
to us. Some of the windows they donated to us. So it's really been a big family
Yeah,
project
exactly.
here.
Exactly. Do you know what this is?
It's a fertilizer spreader.
I was hoping you knew because I was going to make
Yes.
something up.
One of those pieces my husband loved, found
Yeah.
it somewhere, bought it. So we just hang it up for display. This is how they used to spread fertilizer back in the day.
Wow, look at all those pieces. But yeah, there's a lot of little farm antiques here to sort of make it
And
interesting.
signs, he got the
Yeah.
Royster fertilizer sign. That's an old company, doesn't exist anymore. And
My dad even made these.
yes, he made those old tables out of wood from here, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then this is the best place to sit. Look at this. With that sun, not a cloud in the sky.
It's a beautiful day. Cold today, but beautiful.
Cold but beautiful. I was just going to say, how long can I fake not shivering? But no, this is it. Let's show the front porch real quick, and then I think we'll let them go. How about that?
How about that? Yeah.
You want to go see the front porch?
As we close out this Chesteen old farmhouse show today, I was just going to tell you a little bit about this porch. Originally, the porch had no railing. There was no railing on this porch, and if you can see, it's kind of high. And my husband tells a story that he was sitting up here in a straight chair, and his grandmother said, "You're getting awfully close to the edge, you're going to fall." And sure enough, guess what happened? He fell. And so I said, when we started on the house, I said, one of the things I want a railing around that porch. Someone had given us these 2 wagon wheels, just gave them to us.
Yeah.
I had seen this on Google or somewhere where you can make the wheel into the frame. And so these guys, Alan and Lars and Dad, they worked hard to get my vision to come to life. So when we did this railing, I said, well, we got to have 2 more wheels. Fortunately, there was an antique store in town that had these 2 big wheels. We got them, and I just think it looks really amazing. And I think Aunt Jimmy and Granny Nora would have really liked this railing. I know the squirrels do. They sit up here and they eat the pecans.
Lots of pecan trees.
A lot of pecan trees. So the squirrels are very happy. We're very happy that we have this amazing house that's going to be here for a long, long time.
Yeah.
To make more memories in.
Exactly. And like I said, when I was a kid, this was covered with wisteria.
Oh, yes.
And you can see, when I said I played under the porch, you can see how easy it was to play under the porch. Just crawl on under there and make all the mud pies you want. But yeah, this has just been, we're super proud of it. Lars and I talk about it all the time. So yeah, it's just something that we had to film. They even got a antique bell from 89, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I always wanted a bell.
It made an old tin sign that says the Chesteen. So we're building a fire pit across the road. Blueberries will come in here early spring, early summer.
Yeah, April, May. If you like blueberries, you need to check us out in May now. We have some of the best blueberries you'll ever eat around here.
They even run a you pick where you come and you pick.
For a fee. You're not free.
But all the story is there for free. So this has been our tour of the Chesteen. Thank you, Mom, for joining me on this early morning tour.
Thank you, Alan, for having me.
You're
it's been
very
a
welcome.
joy.
Very welcome. And thank you all for watching with us. I know it's not usually what we do, and there's no Danish in this one, so.
I can't speak Danish, barely speak English.
Yeah, and Lars hasn't had a mic this whole time. I bet he's dying to say something. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please share. Let us know in the comments below. I'll be sure to include the link to the Airbnb as well as to my mom's blueberry store, just so you can check it out and see what it is that we have going and sort of where I grew up, since we get to talk about where Lars grows up all the time. But thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much. And hope you have a happy New Year.